Hi, it's Albert Flynn DeSilver, and this is our very special video cast called Waking Up in Daily Life. And I am so delighted and so honored to have with me this morning the wonderful and the terrific Byron Katie. Byron, thank you so much for being here. It's such a delight to have you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Well, welcome, welcome. And, you know, I came to your work. I mean, many people might know, first of all, Byron Katie is the founder of The Work. And I forget, I've lost count of how many books, but the most recent being A Mind at Home with Itself, which I absolutely love and is dog-eared and underlined.
Oh.
And I came to you and your work through Spirit Rock, because your name would pop up there, and I've taught at Spirit Rock a few times, and then of course there are people like Elizabeth Gilbert who said, I think of your recent book, she said, Byron Katie has rocked my world and shaken loose my mind more thoroughly than any other spiritual teacher I've ever encountered.
Oh, I love her. I love her so much. She's
Liz is amazing. She is such a gem, and you know, any sort of testimonial from Liz is always good. Anyways, I've just loved your story and loved reading about the work and found it so beneficial, and I'm so, you know, because I came from myself, I came from an alcoholic family and abuse and addiction and all these things, and once I heard your story about suicidality and just sort of coming to your wit's end and surrendering, finding yourself sort of somehow still alive or still embodied, and then being filled with, I don't know, it would seem to me like a sense of wonder and awe, and with these questions that came to you, this whole process of inquiry, such an inspiration. And so I'm curious a little bit about, by way of introduction, just this transition, how you made that transition from being, I think as you describe it, kind of on the floor, you know, having to kind of give up everything, give up your family, give up your...
It was a depression that I wouldn't want anyone to have to suffer, even though there are people that do. And for all I know more, that I would wake up in the mornings, Albert, and into that state of depression and just wonder, why me? Why do I have to even breathe in this world? It's too painful. And then one morning, as I lay sleeping on the floor, and I was sleeping on the floor next to my bed because I didn't think I even deserved a bed to sleep in. That's crazy. And that's where I was. So this particular morning, as I lay on the floor, fast asleep, a cockroach crawled over my foot, and I opened my eyes. And before the ego could take on a life at all, I saw how my world was created. It was so clear. Without the ego, I could see in that space the cause of all my suffering. I saw how when I believed my thoughts, I suffered. And when I questioned them, I didn't suffer. So there was that space without ego, and then the ego taking over. And then I began to laugh. It was the first sound out of my mouth. And I pretty much have been laughing all the way. And it's been more than 30 years.
Wow.
I am so grateful to have found, to have seen the answer, to have experienced the answer. And so I invite, you know, my life is about, all these years, my life is about inviting people to question their mind with these 4 questions.
Now, were you generally freaked out by insects and bugs?
No,
So like,
no, not any more than no kind of thing around it. No.
right, because like an ego could get all kinds of freaked out about like the cockroach and poor me, and this is sort of like the end, this is the end of the world, and
Yeah.
it's just like me and the cockroach. It's sort of almost this Kafka-esque ending of the world.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
I can see that kind of train of thought, how it might apply, but um, there was there was no cockroach other than an afterthought. In other words, um, what we call remembering,
Mhm.
which is um, so no, not in the moment. It was not even a cockroach. It was not even an experience. It was just hindsight.
Mm, mm.
And like if I think of breakfast this morning, I can see it clearly in my eyes, through my mind's eye. But that was the only way I could even tell the story of the cockroach. and
Right,
and it's
right.
not a story I like to tell either. It's got that insect has a terrible reputation on this planet.
That's right. That's right.
Ooh, 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 ooh.
Creepy, creepy, creepy.
Creepy,
Um,
creepy.
well, you speak, what I've heard in different interviews and just watching some videos of the work, you speak a lot about meditation and about getting into a meditative state.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious if you could share with us a little bit more about that, because when, um, in my experience, I've, trained in Vipassana and Vedanta and all this stuff where you sit in contemplative meditation for long periods of time. And, it takes a lot of stillness and spaciousness in my own experience to really get perspective, to get perspective on the thoughts, to even start to quiet those thoughts down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious for you, and in terms of the work, um, because I think when people see the work or they come to the work or they see people interacting with you, they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I can just fill out this worksheet and I can maybe have a conversation with Byron or maybe my partner or something. And then, I'll let go of these thoughts and I'll be cured.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be awakened, right?
Yeah,
But can
yeah.
you tell me a little bit about the role of meditation for you in all of this?
Okay, so let's say that one of the examples I use on worksheet, and the worksheet is I call it the judge a neighbor worksheet. It's where we judge him, her, or them, and we get in touch with a situation that is reoccurring, that appears to our mind's eye. And then as we experience that, all the emotions come and we feel anger or hurt or envy,
Mm-hmm.
and those stories of the past and future that move in and out of our heads. Well, if it's bothersome, if I experienced pain in the past, like you mentioned, the the way you grew up with really confused, addicted people in your life. And people said things, you heard things happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
And, and for me, those continue to reoccur. And I see them as like earth school. It's
Mm-hmm.
if it brings suffering to me or anxiety or resentment, um, it's what I'm thinking and believing and visualizing that is the cause of my suffering. It's the
Mm-hmm.
ego at work,
Mm-hmm.
very simply put.
Right.
So when a situation from the past comes to mind, or even a situation in the future that hasn't even happened that I fear, but
Mm-hmm.
let's say one from my childhood reoccurs, I get really still. I put that worksheet in front of me with the 6 questions on it. I get really still. I close my eyes and I
Mm-hmm.
sit in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the situations we try to avoid. We addict over those things, and
Mm-hmm.
our personality is made around those, our identity. But I sit in that situation, as painful as it may be, and I look at the first question on the worksheet, and it says, who angers, frustrates? Anyway, we put the emotion there, terrorizes in that situation, who upsets me and why. So I fill in, for example, I am furious with Paul because he lied to me. So now I'm in the kitchen and I'm going to anchor there in this meditative process. So he lied to me. And I sit in 4 questions. The first one is it true? He lied to me. Now, the second question is, can I really know that it's true, that he lied to me? So now I'm going to be even closer to it. I'm going to be there now. Because look how often we have been there. So I can do it one more time, only this time consciously, meditatively, by invitation.
Right, because usually in meditation we're getting quiet, we're getting silent, we're sort of like trying to empty the mind and distill. But what you're talking about is more of like an invitation to kind of go back into some of those difficult energies, difficult emotions.
I tried everything to avoid it. Everything. Drugs, alcohol, friendships, ambitious business woman thing, everything, and it just continued to recur. So I thought anything that wants attention that badly, I really got on the floor that love is the power. That is the power. There's no duality in that. I saw it, got it, lived it.
Yes.
And so when I'm sitting with the ego, who I see as a terrified child, is it true? In that situation, he lied to me. Can I really know that it's true? So it takes a still mind to go back and see for itself what is true. Is it true or not? I believed it all these years. Is it true or not? And so my answer was yes. And so the answer is always one syllable. It's either yes or no. And so it takes me with me, not the way the world would see it, but me with me. It's like a showdown, and it takes stillness, because it's the answer isn't what I think it should be. I think it should, maybe be one way, but I see another. Okay, and what meets the question is the gift, and you've got to be quiet to receive the gift, or the question isn't an invitation in the first place. It's just a pretend invitation. So it's got to be authentic.
So you might be sitting there with this question for 2 minutes, or you might be sitting with this question for 2 hours.
Yes, and maybe throughout the day, even in the process, is it true? Like, he doesn't care about me. Maybe I'm living with someone and I think he doesn't care about me, or she. And is it true? And then just to experience that in our relationship throughout the day. Because the answer's everywhere, and in life. So in that situation in the kitchen with Paul, he lied to me. Is it true? Yes. Can I really know that it's true? That's like saying, take another look, get still. The answer was still yes. And then how do I react? What happens when I believe the thought is the third question. So I witness how I react, what I feel, those emotions, what I said and did that was hurtful, so you can see when you ask yourself, how do I react when I believe the thought? What shows up is, I can't even describe it. It takes courage to witness what arises when you're anchored in that situation, time and place.
Right, because it could be it could be an emotion that's easily named, but it might be just sensation, right? Just some sort of disturbed sensation that we don't have a name for.
And that is the answer. What you just said is the answer that's going to meet the question, how do I react? What happens when I believe the thought? And I don't want to miss any of those emotions, because we fear emotions. We want them to stop.
Yes. Right.
So this is invitation. How do I react when I believe the thought? I'm not going to ask me that question in the stillness if I don't have the courage to sit in the answer. So first emotional, the emotional, and maybe it's in my lower chest, and then how far reaching is that? How far up? How far in the middle? How deep? How wide? How long? Meaning how far reaching, above, below, just, and to sit in it. And what it affects is just mind blowing. And we can just discount it, or we can think it's just huge. I'll never get over these emotions, and discover that they weren't so much, but it is up for discovery if we're going to sit in that question. So then that fourth question is, in that situation, with that person, with Paul, who would I be without the thought he lied to me? And that is mind-blowing. I just drop the thought. I drop my story. I take my Post-it off of him in my mind's eye.
Right.
And that I can see his desperation. I can see his face, it's turned red. I can see his arms waving. I can see I begin to experience compassion, connection, love, understanding. And the only ticket in is my open mind and the willingness to die in what I see, no matter what. And is it shown?
And that's huge. That's a courageous act.
Albert,
that's a huge courageous act.
One word: forgiveness. The very thing the ego lives. I mean, in a state of forgiveness, where does the ego have a life?
Right. Well, so now we have a community of mostly creatives and artists and writers and so forth. And we, as artists, writers, as you know, we tend to spend a lot of time in our head. We're dreaming, we're fantasizing, we're planning. And we're dealing with all these voices of doubt, like, who am I to write my story? Who am I to share an expression of my
and
view onto the
wonderful questions. Number one, you have experience.
Right.
Number two, you have an interest. Number three, it could go on and on. I can't answer for you, but I got that much.
Yeah, no, that's good. Keep going, because this is so good, because a lot of us, we are repeatedly kind of battered about with these doubts and the fears, and that nobody will read it and nobody cares. And
and for me, anything I would write or say, I wouldn't expect anyone to have an interest in. It's, do I have an interest?
Yes, thank you for that.
It's and of course that comes out of people won't be interested. Is it true? And how do I react when I believe the thought? I don't write, or I doubt myself, and I on and on and on. I audit too closely what I write.
Yeah.
Second guess it. Who would I be without the thought? Writing what comes, whatever it is, I can edit later. But to see what's there, because I'm my first reader. And it's fascinating what comes out of us when we're just free to allow what's in us to flow out on paper.
Isn't it
And
incredible?
it, it can be pure fiction. It's still the same.
Right. Yeah.
It's in us. It
Yeah.
has a right to come out. We're gifted. We're
Mhm.
blessed with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this whole thing is a fiction, right? I mean, on a certain level, it's a fiction.
Always, always. And as long as it is, let's be free in it. You know,
Yes.
free to me is, you know, the word is loving.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, which means it's not that you abandon it in any level and you don't brush its teeth and you know, bathe it and
Mhm.
go to the store and, you know, fill it with food and water. Because that's the love, right? That's the nurturance, taking care.
Anything I've got, like in this discussion, anything I've got, anything I've got has a right to life. You ask me a question, I answer it. I don't edit. If it's here, it has a right to come out. And I have just enough work in me, you know, sitting in these questions that that I seem to be at home in everything I say and think and do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what a beautiful place. And, you know, I think people, a fair number of people have had that experience of being in a loving place, of having an awakening experience. And it might have been on meditation, or it might have been they went on a hike in the Sierras.
I
And
think we all have been gifted a reference point for what you're pointing to, what you're speaking of now.
right.
So we do have a reference point for perfect freedom, if you know, and we want it to last and last. And
That's just it. Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
And
and so that's a question right there. Like, you know, you often hear like, well, I had it, you know, I had this awakening experience, but now it's gone because, you know, my wife is telling me to do the dishes and that, you know, I didn't make enough money this month and, you know, the car broke down and I got knocked out, you know, I'm off in the bushes. And I was once enlightened and feeling connected.
so when I sit with people that say very closely to what you just described, um, we find that reference point, and I ask them, get really still. You believed. What were you, get really still in that situation, and what were you thinking and believing that took you out of it? And then they identify that. We put it on paper and sit in those 4 questions. And we don't, it's like God or some kind of force doesn't just give us that moment of clarity and then take it away. It doesn't work that way. I believed, like I'm in this experience, I think, oh, I'm late for dinner. Or, oh my gosh, I didn't make that phone call.
Right.
You know, and we took another boat out, but we can identify what we were thinking and believing and just find ourselves back there and then out and inquiry and in. Socrates said, an unquestioned life isn't worth living.
Right, right.
Oh, so true.
So true. Yeah, it's sort of like, so what I'm hearing is a lot like it's practice, it's practice,
It's a practice.
over and over and over
It's
again, because we're knocking ourselves out all the time.
We're exhausting ourselves believing and you know, offering up what the ego offers up, attaching to it, meaning believing it, and it doesn't occur to us to question, and some of us wouldn't even know how. If someone said, question what you're believing, like we've heard it's the truth that sets us free. What truth? His, hers, mine, whose? But
right.
but anything I'm thinking and believing that brings stress into my life. Stress meaning worry, anxiety, depression, could use a little work.
Yeah,
And this
absolutely.
work, if I ask someone, they say, I can't do the work. And I say, what is your name? And they can answer that question. They can do the work. They're already an inquiry. They've answered the question.
That's right. Oh my God, that's so beautiful. Yeah, I think of Jack Kornfield has this, wonderful image of the puppy. You're trying to train the puppy, and he pees on the floor, and you pick him up and you put him on the newspaper, and then he waddles off and he pees on the floor, and then you pick him up and put him on the newspaper, and he waddles off and he pees on the floor. And sort of like that, training the mind, coming back to the question. If it's causing suffering,
With this
question.
work, these 4 questions, eventually everything you think begins to end in a question mark.
Right.
Like, he doesn't care about me. It could, the words could come out, but what it feels like is he doesn't care about me, even though the sound is he doesn't care about me. With a question mark, it's just it's just the key to it's what this practice will give you without trying.
Yeah.
It becomes a part of the mind that is the center between mind and the effect, cause and effect.
And it's a question of identity, right? On a certain level.
Absolutely. Yeah, I am confused. Really? What I is confused. And also it's like when we look back at our lives, like Paul lied to me like 30 something years ago in the kitchen. It was this huge big deal, though. It was like traumatic.
Yeah.
And so that occurs. And if I have really done my work, it will continue to come to mind, possibly, but it's completely turned around. I think of Paul with compassion, and my pain has been understood and met. But prior to that, it's like, he lied to me, and I'm going to tell you, he lied to me like I told so many people, and he was unfair, and he was dying of heart attacks, and I was taking, on and on and on. Well, as I'm talking, probably you could see an image of me in the kitchen with Paul, even though you don't know what house it is, you've never met him before, but you're visualizing. Okay, so I'm doing the same. So I am there in the kitchen with Paul, and in the future, I see he's going to continue to lie to me. He's a liar, always going to be that way. And now I'm the one thinking it. Okay, so that I in the kitchen in the past, I can't take that me out and put me on the palm of my hand and talk to me, or it's imagination. And that he's always going to do it again. I can't take that that he's lying to in the future, and that's running in our head. And then, so let's say there are 3 I's. There's me and the Byron Katie in the kitchen, and there's Byron Katie in the future with Paul. It's going to continue to happen. And then there's me sitting here, right here now. Okay, so now I am aware of the answer to who am I not. I am not that. That's imagination. I am not that. That's imagination.
That's memory. Yeah.
Now, if I'm going to be here now and out of the past and future, this is as close as I can ever get to I. And if I heard me say as close as I can get to I'm dreamed again. I just gave me a past. There's two of me. So who
Right.
am I? I can see who I am not clearly. Who am I in this realm we call Earth? I am the grateful woman talking to my friend Albert. No past, no future, no tricky. Yes, it's in the past.
Yeah.
I see that. And this is Earth, and
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
You know that
That's so great. That's so great. I'm thinking
I
about,
love this dream.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, there was the great Indian mystic Nisargadatta Maharaj. He wrote, or he didn't write, he was just always in conversation with people. But there was a quote of his that goes something like, I cannot tell what I am because words can only describe what I am not.
Yes.
Right. And we're constantly describing like memories and this bad thing happened to me, or then
Yes.
projections in the future, like I'm scared about the fires, or, I'm scared about the pandemic.
Yeah.
Even though right now I'm hanging out here with my friend Katie and we're having a conversation. So
Mhm.
all is well. And I
Mhm.
love that, like just coming back to this sense of presence, um,
Yeah.
even when even when there might be some sensation stirring,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
The sensation stirring always for me are like this temple bell that says, what am I thinking and believing
yes.
that because mind is cause and emotions are effect. And
Uh,
so I look to my mind for everything first, and honoring the effect is to honor mind.
that's
It's like,
beautiful.
who am I? I am the dreamed one that said, who am I?
This is great. And I love the temple bell. That's such a beautiful way of thinking about it. When the charge comes, when the sensation comes, when the reaction comes, ding, 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 that's the temple bell. Oh, time to ask a question.
Yeah,
Time to
it's
see,
time
is it
to
true?
it's time to examine what was I thinking and believing as those when that temple bell went off, those emotions.
Right. And it's no different for someone, or you tell me if it's different, for someone who experienced a lot of trauma or post-traumatic stress, and
Mhm.
they have just cascades and cascades of energy, sensation, fear. That's almost, that can like tighten the throat and that can seize up the heart.
Horrible,
Yeah.
horrible, horrible. So I began with one, and I just one of those. And I see them as children, the ego just screaming for attention. So I just start with one. Which one? The one that was the loudest, or the one I recognize first? There are like thousands of this going on in my mind. So I just pull one down to a worksheet,
Mm.
and I just get really still as I meditate in those questions.
And what do you say to some people who, I have family members who have a lot of sort of built up conditioned anxiety, and a lot of voices saying, I can't sit still.
Yeah.
I can't get quiet because it's too harrowing. There's like too much sensation that, to sit still and to write on a worksheet is like,
It would be, and on byronkatie.com, there's a one belief at a time worksheet.
mm,
So we can move them from our judge your neighbor worksheet to the one belief at a time, or just go
mhm,
directly to a one belief at a time.
mhm.
And they're always free. You just push print, that's it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I can't sit still. Is it true? And then just,
yeah.
no, my heart is pumping. My nerves are flying all over the place. There's nothing still about me.
Hmm.
I can't
Yeah.
sit still. Is it true? Okay, now I'm just sitting still here. I'm sitting still. But these emotions, how do I react when I believe the thought I can't sit still? I'm sitting in what I never want to experience. And that is this burning, these feelings of terror or stress. Anyway, I get in touch with them. And how do I react when I believe the thought I can't sit still? And then I see me in my mind's eye, jumping up, doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just witness that. And who would I be without the thought I can't sit still? And as I witness that innocent, as I witness how I react when I believe the thought I can't sit still, I witness that doing in my mind's eye, and the exhaustion and what comes with it when we are exhausted. We're short-tempered, we're compulsively overeating or doing all kinds of addictions, and then we feel guilt, and then we can't sit still. And just sitting in this, as I witness that, I begin to feel so much compassion for the life that I have lived, compassion for myself. I can't sit still. Turn it around. I can sit still. Okay, so it's sleep at night. I'm sitting still.
Yeah.
I have to, maybe I'm lying down, but that works for me. I'm still. I can't sit still. I can sit still. And I try on opposites. When I'm listening to my child, sometimes I get really still. Okay, I can't sit still. And I try to find examples that bring to mind over my denial, times that I'm still. When I'm eating, I can see when I'm eating, I do sit still sometimes to do that. Okay, and I allow truth to set me free from the false identification, if you will. I can't get still. And then as I begin to recognize that, it's a kind of wordless permission to be still. It is, you have no one, I have no idea how inquiry is going to shift my life. It just always does. Let's say I'm completely free. It's still just a beginning. Mind is infinite. And that's a beautiful thing. I like to say, when you think life can't get any better, it has to, because it's a law. It's the law of this friendly universe, this friendly.
Yeah. The better it gets, the better it gets. So that it sounds like there's no, like with inquiry, there's no escape, right? I love the title of that. I think there's a Pema Chodron book called The Wisdom of No Escape. And it almost seems like that's what you're referring to, is that when you're willing to question, every sensation, every emotion, every thought, no matter the context, no matter the situation, no matter the background, the culture, the place, the universe, whatever, that there's always going to be, if you follow it through, there's always going to be some sort of reckoning with consciousness or opening.
I have to say, I have found a way out. It was shown to me. I found a way out, and the way out is the way in. It's like sit in yourself, and you'll just find yourself in. It's a practice.
Yeah, because it's like that journey.
You think, I'm free. I've done my work. I'm free. Not. Next lesson. Here it comes.
Here it comes. Same thing with creativity, right? We're always looking kind of outward. We tend to look outward and externally for like, oh, that person over there, they're creative. And, if I read enough of their books, I'll become more creative. Or if I watch enough YouTube videos, or if I, take enough classes, or if I, whatever, which isn't to say that you can't learn and get inspired.
I was going to say, I don't see anything wrong with that. And
No, no, no.
unless I could not afford the classes, I mean, or the teachers or the books. And,
Right.
you know, in other words, something could stop me and that will take me in, you know,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it takes to move me to these questions, because the answers are inside of us, just
Right.
waiting to be invited.
And the answers are the creativity, right? Like if we're sort of taking this context of someone separating themselves from creativity, for example, the answer is looking inside, going through that practice, asking those questions, and then through that spaciousness, is it that the creativity arises?
I would question anything that shuts my creative mind down, and something that I would consider, you know, not creative. There's nothing that isn't created, you
Right.
know, and everything is created inside of us. But anything that would stop me, like if I am, he doesn't care about, he lied to me, oh, you know, all this, and no one understands me and all of this, then
Mm.
those are filling, they're they're filling the space where the creative mind could live. But it's just cluttered
Mm.
with all the
Mhm.
unquestioned
Yes.
ideas that shut our creativity down. And
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what's for dinner. Oh, well, you know, I didn't. The pandemic, and you know, do I go to the store and I don't know where my mask is. You know, what happened to my? You know, I'm creating my experience when I believe those thoughts. But if I'm a writer, I need to put those aside and write. Now, when they start taking over my writing time,
Mm-hmm.
then you know, they keep calling my attention to them, then I would certainly fill in a judge your neighbor worksheet and put my time in there, especially if I were going through an experience of writer's block, for
Mm-hmm.
example.
Yes, yes.
I would take advantage and fill in worksheets. That is writing, and you are going to the creative mind and taking dictation, like
Mm-hmm.
those horrible events for some of us, those traumatic experiences belong on paper where we can question them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's and then the space is open for the writer's mind.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the absolute antidote, right? Silence, stillness, and then questioning those limiting beliefs and those limiting thoughts
Yeah.
about our capacity for creative genius, our capacity
Yeah.
for expression.
Yep. Rather than sitting in, I am the one that is suffering,
Mm-hmm.
we can sit as the writer, open to what wants to be written,
Yeah, yeah.
for
Oh,
example.
that's so good. That's so good. Um, One last question here around death. You know, because
Okay.
death it seems to be the primary driver of life, right? And in our culture, um, there's a lot of baggage around it. There's a lot of confusion around it. Um, I think fear around it can get in the way of creativity, can get in the way of relationship, can get in the way. So I'm curious about your conception of
Well,
death.
death, death, I have found to be impossible.
So I don't know why that makes me laugh so, but it's just like such a great response. Sorry.
It's I am who I believe me to be. And that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make it me. And so how can, am if I don't have one valid I am, how can what isn't die? What isn't in the first place?
Mm, mm.
I mean, you'd have to
Beautiful.
have a life before you could die. So what life would that be? Me of the past, me of the future, me of the now? Now is, if you heard me say now, you're in the past.
That's right, because it goes quickly.
Yeah.
So it's not something to be feared.
And when you say it went quickly, assumes that it was there at all.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
what life would that be? What life
Yeah.
would that be? What is going to die? What is there to die? This is, for me, not philosophical. It's experience. It's my experience, and
Mm-hmm.
I think anyone's experience that lives with a questioned mind, a
Mm-hmm.
questioning mind.
Yeah, because one can go, especially once life gets um, really beautiful and really amazing and really balanced, and one isn't pulled down by the past
Mm,
and all the drama of the poor me victim, like my mom didn't take care of me,
yeah,
and she was alcoholic, blah, blah, blah. And then you come to this place, and over however long it's taken to just be balanced and to be
yeah.
in love with life, and then one could go, oh, well, this is so great. Like, well, I don't want to leave. Like, I love my friends. I love the food that's offered. I love the animals and the clouds and the the
So
beautiful
in
connections.
that state of mind, just when you think life can't get any better, it has to, because that's the law. The law of the heart, the law of love. And then if I died, who is there to know it?
Right.
How would I know it? So you can't die.
Yeah.
And that's, it's just another way of saying what dies.
What dies? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you can find a present you, you'd have to see it only as the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the only answer is to be in love, to
Yes,
be
honey.
in
Yeah,
creative expression.
that is the that is the power. It's nothing can stop it, and it expresses itself through for a writer, through their hands, their fingers.
That's beautiful. That's a perfect place to end, I think. And I'm so grateful. This is really fun and a total delight. And I just know that, as I think I said at the beginning, and as I imagined, our community is going to get so much from this beautiful conversation. And so I want to thank you, Byron Katie, for taking the time to share with us, and sending you lots of love and many
Oh,
blessings
thank
wherever you
you.
are.
Thank you, Albert. And thank you for your good work. And all of you listening out there, thank you for these beautiful worlds you bring to us through your beautiful minds.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone.